And if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies. I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide. You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsie.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, but for long, the fight's too hard. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another day at the grind. 100 days of Rootkit. Epic, epic, epic. Gotta go for the drop. Oh, there we go. Alright. Now, if you are new joining us, I want to say thank you for joining us. If you are returning, well, welcome back. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and, oh, the hype is so good, but let's go ahead and transition to our chill music, shall we? Let me go ahead and start that up. Oh yeah, much more calm. Actually, let me go to this one. There we go. A little bit better there. And let's do our rundown, shall we? So, if you're first time here, we are Rootkit, a non-profit org here in the US of A. So any donations you make to us are 100% tax deductible, alright? If you would like to win some free merch, like look at this beautiful sweater I have. Actually, I think the time has expired for this giveaway. It has. So you can catch week 4, which will be live later today. And you can enter the giveaway. It's free. You just need to, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitch, just various normal basic tasks like that. And you could get yourself some free merch. We will be polling the person who won the exclusive sweater tomorrow during our chill Q&A sesh. All right. Now, if you do like what we're doing and you want to help support us, then you can go over to this link right here. I'm gonna go in and post this into the chat. Epic, epic. And if you go on here, you can donate, and depending on the amount that you donate, you can get some stickers, maybe some of these exclusive 100-day of Rootkit stickers. These are only available during this stream. You could get this amazing, amazing sweater, which, look, it even has the Rootkit logo in the back. Also, I do this time have some of our epic collab shirts. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that so cool? They're chilling. They're collabing. What's that say? Next biggest thing, all right? Cool little collab shirt. Get yourself one of those. Epic, epic, epic. If you want to continuously support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon or our Discord Premium. All right, all of our links are in the Discord and our README, so just join that and you'll get everything that you need. All right, shall we trek forward? If you want to follow along, everything is available on our computer science certificate roadmap. This lists everything you need to know to get our Comp Sci cert, which is a complete replacement to a college degree. We are teaching you everything that a college would teach you and more in order to ensure you a job. Epic, epic, epic stuff. We went through a whole lot of stuff yesterday. DNS. So much stuff about DNS systems. Let's see. It's cold in Canada. Need that sweater. See, that's what I'm saying right now. That's what I'm saying. If you guys would like, just feel free at any time to type in the chat and I'll be responding to that. I'm jumping into the Discord events chat. So if you are a Patreon member or a Discord Premium member, you can just hop into the events chat and ask any questions you want at any time. Feel free to interrupt. Alrighty. There was a question last second yesterday in regards to the DNS records. I believe it's the service record. I can't remember exactly right now, but don't worry about that. We're not going to test on it. You are free to look it up and look into it. But the ones that we're mainly focused on are going to be your SOA, your MX, your A, quadruple A, and NS. Alright, those are the important 5. Sweet. Alright, if you guys have any more questions in regards to yesterday, go on and drop it in the chat. And just so you guys know, we're gonna grind through some more epicness here, and then tomorrow is our designated chill day. So tomorrow is for Q&A. We're not going to teach anything new tomorrow. It's totally up to you guys on how long the stream goes. we're just going to be answering any questions or going over anything that you guys would like to recap. It's totally your guys' day. It does not have to be relevant to the course. It could be completely off topic. I'm down to chat about whatever, all right? It's your guys' time. You know, we charge, well, to terabyte tier on Patreon is $128. That's for like an hour to 2-ish. Usually they go longer than that because I don't mind going a little bit longer. At least right now while we're small and it's easy. Where we interact with you and help you and talk and chill. But right now we're doing it for free for everyone. So make sure you use and abuse me, alright? Use and abuse me. Yep, perfect. You listed them out perfect there, Kamal. Alright. So, shall we continue? Let's talk about mail a little bit. So, DNS, port 53. You do need to remember the port numbers for these guys, alright? For at least DNS, everything we list here, you're going to need to know the port numbers because it's going to be very relevant in your job as you go about these. So it's very important for you to know. So 53 for the DNS. There was oh yeah, that's it. Here we go. A little trick to I don't know. It helps me. I don't know if it will help you for remembering DNS's port number. If we do like decimal to hex. All right, let's bring up a decimal to hex converter. And if you type in 53 in here and you convert it, it's 35. It's basically flipped. So DNS allows you to resolve names, but also get the names related to IP addresses. So it lets you do two things in either order. Also, it's on port 53, which in hex is 35. I don't know if that will help, but it's flippy floppy. All right, it's the only one I think that has that ability that I'm currently tracking. So remember that. All right, let's talk about mail. Mail. So back before days, we had snail mail. All right, let's put letter in the mailbox and wait a month for a response. All right, it usually wouldn't take a month, but it would be a god-awful time. Now, because Amazon pushed and raised the bar, mail usually always gets delivered, no matter what provider you're on, in 3 or less days, which is really convenient and really nice. No longer having to wait a week or two for your packages. But internet came along and said, hey, we can do that, but better. We can do it so it's instant. It was an absolute revolution for the space, and now we use mail all the time. It is a pinnacle of the internet. You have to have a mailing address on the internet in order to really participate anywhere on the internet. So, very important. These are both used religiously. No matter where you go, all 4 of these are going to be used religiously. So if you want to set up your own mail server or use Google's, or get into utilize anyone else's mail servers that are available. I'm like, I don't know, what do you guys use? Yahoo? Do people still use Yahoo? I know they still exist. I still get Yahoo News and stuff. I thought they were completely dead, but let us move on. So SMTP, Simple Mail Transport Protocol. Let us take a look into this. So SMTP is for sending electronic mail. All right, mail servers and other message transfer agents use SMTP to send and receive messages. All right, that's the big important thing. Is it is meant for sending and receiving messages. This is typically what you utilize when you are using mail. So if we go over here and say like Google Mail API. So API, if you guys remember, stands for Application Programming Interface. We talked about that a while ago, and I told you if you didn't remember it, don't worry. We're going to be talking about it a lot, and you're going to see it a lot. All right, we're going to keep reinforcing it. So that's basically how you can interact with Google's mail stuff. So let's go ahead and check out this real quick because I want to pull up their info. This can't be the only one. Hold on one second. As you can tell, this is kind of impromptu. So if this takes too long, we'll just, let me see, Google SMTP. Here we go. So if you were going to set up or connect to Google's mail servers, you can utilize their SMTP services. So right here is the links to their SMTP services, right? So if you also remember, by using Dig, which is a way to look at the records of a DNS server, so Google Dig, and if we went to, for example, the Rootkit site, you could see our mail servers, and they, why didn't, hold on, there we go. And you'll see these pretty much match up because these are the SMTP servers. These allow us to send mail and also receive mail. Any questions in regards to that? Also, you'll see that they utilize ports. So they utilize port 25. Also, important thing to know. Does it say here? I feel like port 25 is wrong. Hold on one second. SMTP port. It is port 25. Okay, so they're going to be utilizing port 25 and port 587. And you'll see here, if we go back to, where's the tab? Here we go. They're saying port 25 here, but if we scroll up, here they're using for encrypted traffic. So there's two different ways to encrypt your data. Using SSL or the more up-to-date one, which is TLS, and that may change the port number. So again, if this is not encrypted, so it doesn't require TLS, you can infer or guess that this might be unencrypted, which is not very good if you want to send and receive mail and be private about things. So you're going to want to utilize these at all times. I'm not saying they're not encrypting it on this port. All right, they most likely are, but those are some things to look out for. All right. So SMTP, big thing is port 25 is the default port in most cases, but there are 3 in total. So make sure you are aware of those. Any questions in regards to that? Pretty simple, nothing too tricky or crazy. SMTP is just mail, how you do mail, and these are the potential ports that it could be running on. Let me get rid of this. All right, so there's also POP. Let us look up POP. POP is also for mail. Can I get the, here we go. Stands for Post Office Protocol, all right? And it's used to retrieve emails, and only to retrieve emails. It's not used to send emails. It's only used to retrieve them from different servers, all right? So that's the important distinction between SMTP and POP. What POP is usually used for is to forward stuff along to another mailbox. So maybe you have a bunch of different emails. You can use POP to forward things down to a single email. All right, that's the main usage of POP today. And POP is going to be on port 110. Let me double check that. POP3 port. Yeah, 110 for default unencrypted traffic and 995 for encrypted traffic. So remember that. And the key factor here is going to be forwarding only, or retrieving it only. All right, you can't send on POP. Any questions there? Sweet. Let's look at IMAP 4. IMAP 4 is used by email clients to retrieve emails to an email server. So again, IMAP is pretty similar to POP. Let's see here, which along earlier POP, I believe it replaced POP. I am a little bit hazy right now on my memory in regards to these two, but they effectively do the same thing. So if you see any questions on email forwarding, IMAP and POP are going to be your go-tos. All right. SMTP is both, correct. SMTP is both sending and receiving. So that's the most important one. That's the one that you will always want to use. IMAP and POP are typically for, again, forwarding to one mailbox to try to like consolidate. I don't know if you've ever had to, let me see if I can open up my email and go to my email settings here. I'm gonna do this on a separate screen first. See all settings. Here we go. So here's my email settings, and if you, this is for anyone that's I mean, I don't know where everything's gonna be for every one of your guys' email, but if you're on Google, you can click on this, and then you can click on, it's not popping up now, but I think it's because we're in the settings, but you can click on all settings and you'll see here. And right here is forwarding and POP/IMAP, because POP and IMAP are effectively the exact same thing in their base functionality. So you can use either or. And this again is just for forwarding emails. I can say what address I want to send all my emails to, and I can use POP or IMAP to forward them. All right. Again, SMTP is your normal email sending back and forth. POP and IMAP is for forwarding. Let us see here, and remember the port is 143. And I guess it can all for the secured version, so that's unencrypted and secured version, it's going to be 993. Again, you're going to see it's very, very common as we go through these to see two different port numbers. Usually there will always be like two different port numbers for these like OG internet services. Why? Because again, early days of the internet, there was just inherent trust. People weren't thinking about hackers or needing encryption or people snooping on them. It was just, hey, I'm going to program this up and I'm going to send data across. And on top of that shaky, very transparent foundation, then patches and little works were made on top of it. The internet is built on a pretty shaky foundation, all right? It's not very solid. Things are slowly changing and some things are being rewritten from the ground up, like IPv6, but overall things are unreasonably unstable, right? So again, that is important, specifically if you want to be using encrypted, which you will, all right? Any questions on that? Let us, it's also, I guess, kind of similar because people advertise this as Web 2. Well, Web 1 and Web 2 would kind of be, Web 1 would be this, and Web 2 would be like the upgraded form where security was being introduced. Web 3 is coined for blockchain stuff and the blockchain based like internet services. And I think it's funny because a lot of them, I mean, their whole thing is being transparent and nothing is really encrypted, which is fine. I think that's how a lot of services will be operating moving forward. But I anticipate seeing a Web 4 or some type of patch or something put onto these services in order to allow for encryption, because it's just a natural thing for people wanting to, you know, keep some things out of peering eyes. All right, let us move on here. I don't see any questions currently, so let's chug along and talk about HTTP. All right, HTTP is something you might use all the time. If you are becoming a developer, you're going to be using HTTP all the time. This stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, because again, so all of these are going to be using asterisks. Most of them are going to be utilizing TCP. This is to ensure that you're transferring everything correctly and 100%, and it will be received on the other end. HTTP is what you use along with HTTPS, depending. This one is unencrypted, so this is the OG first gen old stuff for sending web traffic. All right, this is the newer version for encrypting it. This is called Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It uses TCP, and again, we talked about it. All web pages are downloaded to your computer. It may not seem like that, it may not feel like that, but they are downloaded. If you view things on your phone, they are downloaded to your phone. Everything you interact with is downloaded to your device in order to interact with it. All right, that's what happens all the time. So that is why it's called Hypertext Transfer Protocol. You are transferring this data to your computer and downloading it, and then your computer via a browser will take this weird looking code and now render it into a nice looking web page. All right, so HTTP works on port 80, and this is what runs the internet. If you are deving out your own stuff, this is going to be important. And I should say asterisks on all of this in regards to the ports. That is their default assigned port. So if you're running a web server, it will be at port 80. All right, but that doesn't mean you have to use it, because again, in computer world, it is the wild west. There are recommendations or what people want you to do, but you don't have to follow them. You can do whatever you want. And this is actually really, really powerful when it comes to programming, because when it comes to microservice architecture and like port forwarding and various things like that, you could run potentially 100 different web servers and give them each different ports. And even though they aren't on port 80, you can still run a bunch of web servers just on different ports. We'll get into an example of that maybe today. Maybe we'll run through an example of it. And to anticipate that, I'm gonna go ahead and start up Docker. Is it starting? Oh, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and start up Docker, so that way we can maybe go through a couple examples of what I'm talking about and how you can change the port, but the service is still the same. So I guess the big thing is you can change the port for any of these services, but when you use things like web browsers, they're going to be anticipating you to use the default ports, the ones that everyone has recognized and said, hey, we're going to go about this. So every time you type in a URL in your Chrome browser or Edge browser or Firefox, whatever you use, it will by default assume the port that you want to go to, which is going to be 80 or 443. If you have a web server running on a different port than that because you wanted to go rogue and change it, they won't know unless you specify it. And again, to specify ports, at the end of your fully qualified domain name, you're going to do a colon, and after that colon, you will specify the port. This is how you can choose the port. So we're using HTTPS, which is 443. So I'm going to do 443 and press enter, and you'll see it works. It even gets rid of it because Google already knows it's implied. Hey Elijah, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this for us. I appreciate you, dude. Oh, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate you for saying that. It means a lot. It means a lot. So, Next, let's move on the list here. URL. Do I gotta talk about this more? I'm pretty sure you guys are very familiar with the URLs, right? They stand for Uniform Resource Locator. All right. URLs are not just used as URLs in the web. They're used for anywhere. They are just a way for you to locate some type of data. So if we go Google this, you'll see that the definition of it is just a location or address identifying where documents can be found on the internet. But the key thing is just where something can be located, where it can be found. The most common place is going to be your internet, but there are, I guess I'm thinking more so the URI schema, which stands for Uniform Resource Identifier, and this one's going to be Uniform Resource Locator, but it's just exactly where everything is. So again, this is going to be your normal URLs, just like you are very accustomed to. Nothing tricky or funny there. HTTPS, just like HTTP, except now it's going to be encrypted. How is it going to be encrypted? Through either SSL or TLS, which we'll get into here in a second. The main thing is it's going to be encrypted traffic. No one can view it. All right. This is, to use the buzzwords of VPN services, by default it is military grade encryption. All right. No one can view your stuff. This is what government agencies use. All right. They use the same stuff you use. There's no significant like difference out of the box. There are settings you can do to potentially modify it to make it more hardcore, but it is secure out of the box. Now, also a reason why things were unencrypted earlier and why they are encrypted now is because encryption, it uses a lot of processing power. It uses a lot more data potentially. So in the early days of the internet, in the early days of computers, you were really limited on your processing power and storage. So even if you really wanted to do encryption, which you totally could have, it would have been extremely limiting and extremely slow. And when you visit your websites, you want things to be fast. People love things that are fast. If a web page doesn't load fast enough for the average consumer, they will typically just leave the page before it's fully loaded because it's annoying. They'll just go on. How many times have you done like a Google search and clicked on like the first link and maybe it was taking too long, so you went back and you just clicked on the next link in line? I know I've done it plenty of times because I don't want to sit around waiting 10 plus seconds for the site to load. All right. So speed is very important. Now, encryption is being done. Encryption processes are also being upgraded. They're getting larger and larger and more complicated. Encryption processes are scaling with the amount of compute power you are able to use. So the early days of securing internet traffic was great and perfect for the time. If you used it now, what they were using then, it's not good anymore because it can be cracked with pretty much standard like computer parts that you can get at the store. All right. We use a lot beefier encryption now because our computers are way more powerful. Also, using beefier encryption is a lot more intensive, which means things are going to be slower. And we have better hardware now, so we can do it without showing the performance downfalls with utilizing this more hardcore stuff. All right, let me see if there's any questions here. All right, so HTTPS 443 is the port. Remember that. That's the important thing, and it's encrypted web traffic. All right, those are only two things. How is it encrypted? Well, before it was encrypted by SSL. And a lot of people, even though it is TLS now, a lot of people, including myself, will always be referring to it as SSL or your SSL certificate, etc., etc. And if we look here, anything with the lock icon means it is using HTTPS on port 443, and it's secured by an SSL certificate. And if we look here, we can actually view the certificate. So here is the certificate, and again, I say SSL because a lot of people say SSL also, because that's just kind of the old terminology, and a lot of people that are making these courses, books, so forth, or that you work with will be a little older, so you're using the old terminology. But if we look right here, it is TLS that is being used. TLS is used by pretty much everyone everywhere because it is the new standard. It is more hardcore. Sometimes you'll also see it called SSL/TLS, but TLS is it. And you can get more information here on the type of method that they use for helping secure it. So they use SHA-384. Did you guys go over SHA or hashing at all with Taylor? And if not, is it on here, or is it must be in the next course? Basically what this is you hear of blockchain tech, right, all the time in the news. What it's built off of is this hashing. You might hear miners or hash miners or stuff like that. Basically, a lot of the miners were effectively just doing brute force hacking. Like actually how you would break and hack passwords, not hack passwords, but crack passwords. That's effectively what all like Bitcoin miners were doing. It's the exact same logic behind it. But they're all based off of this hash stuff. So all of your security in the world for encrypting your data technically could be advertised as utilizing blockchain technology. But in reality, it's blockchain technology that's utilizing this tech. But if you want to use some buzzwords and have some crazy advertisement for the product that you're building, you can go and throw that out, and you wouldn't be wrong. People wouldn't like it, at least people that are technical and know, but you wouldn't be wrong. All right, let's talk about SSL. Did I put this here? All right, SSL, as we saw, it's a secure socket layer, which means that it's just helping secure your HTTP traffic through the socket 443, which, like I said earlier, think of socket and port as the same because they are effectively the same. All right, so just think of them as the same thing. So it is, even this brought me to TLS. All right, they have it as a combo article as TLS SSL. So right here, TLS builds on the now deprecated SSL, so secure socket layer, which was first had its specifications published in these various years. And I guess there's not really too much more for us to talk about that. And you can see right here, the years that different versions of SSL were used. And then when TLS came in. And just because TLS was introduced in this year does not mean that SSL was not used anymore. SSL was used all the way up until 2015. You can still use SSL if you want, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would almost guarantee that there's most likely sites still out there utilizing SSL 3.0. But now we're on to TLS 1.3. The thing is, think about your normal job. If you're in school, think about people at your school. If you work if you work at all, think about your coworkers. How much of them want to have the most up-to-date thing? Or how many of them don't really care? Or how many of them just want to go just get, let's say phone, for example. They just want to get a phone and move on with their life. All right, programmers are no different. You are training in here to be a programmer, so there's nothing special about programmers, all right? They are human beings as much as any McDonald's worker, all right? There's no difference. They are both the same type of human being. So any tropes or ways of thinking that you have are going to follow through with you. So if you are one that says, okay, let me just get a phone and I'm gonna move on with my life and deal with more important things, well, then you might be someone that stands up TLS 1.1 and moves on with your life. And then what do you know? It gets deprecated in 2021 and you're still using outdated version of TLS, and now you're exposing your consumers to potentially be hacked because they're using outdated tech. It is very common to see websites and services, if you go to work for the gov, any government, all right, you will see commonplace where things will be potentially, in this case, a decade ahead of what the previous thing was. But they'll still use the previous thing because it takes time, effort, and money to upgrade it, and a lot of the thinking is, why fix it when it isn't broke? Which I can understand and get behind to a certain extent, but when you're dealing with security, don't fuck with security. Use the latest and greatest stuff, right? The last thing you want to do is show up on the news for being an idiot, which happens all of the time. All of the time. They're literally, what was the company? Can't remember the company right now, but very recently, a couple years ago, a company got hacked. Passwords got leaked. Come to find out, all of your passwords were just saved in plain text, which means they weren't encrypted. There was nothing special with them. Like, you sent them your password, Hello Kitty Lover 9000, and they just saved it essentially on a notepad file. All right? There was no thought or care put behind it. And they were a very, very big company, multi-billion-dollar company that was doing this. Just because companies are big and have money does not mean that they have competent devs, that they are smart, that they are good. That is not a one-for-one relation. How the world runs is based off advertisement and marketing. Just because you have good shit does not mean you are good shit, because you are nothing if no one knows about you. So you are nothing, aka rootkit. All right, we have good shit, but no one really knows about us. So are we really good shit at the end of the day? That's a debate. All right, and I would go towards the not really. All right, so not always the best thing will win out. Keep that in mind. Any questions so far? So a recap. SSL is old way of encrypting stuff. Let us move forward to TLS. TLS, I guess I don't need to change this. TLS is the new, better way to do it, all right? And it stands for Transport Layer Security. So let's talk about for a second how these work, all right? Because encryption is kind of thing that people say, and it exists, and you're like, okay. And maybe you want to be a good dev, and you're like, we need encryption. And then your buddy's like, yeah, we do. And then you sit there and you look at each other and you're like, all right, how the hell do we do encryption? It's pretty easy. It's just a little bit annoying to set up because there is a setup process, but it is easy overall. Now, until recently, I know I keep saying until recently because everything in the programming realm changes rapidly. Everything as you know it in 3 years will be pretty much rewritten. All right, especially if you become a front-end dev with JavaScript. JavaScript and the devs in that ecosystem rewrite everything every 3 years and all change their mind on what the coolest things are. If you're a Java dev, which is a different language than JavaScript, it's usually mostly boomers who are using the same outdated piece of Java 8 or 11. All right, even though they're on version 17, You'll usually only see people on 8 and 11. It's ridiculous. It's like people that are on Windows 7 and they were paying, or businesses that were paying for the 3 years of extended support of Windows 7 that just ended like a week or so ago. It's like, really, like, get on with the program. Why are you still using this stuff? Like, just move on. What are you doing? All right. What was I saying? Encryption. So TLS uses this thing called asymmetric keys. So there's two different terms, symmetric and asymmetric. I feel like this is going to be covered in a later day, but we're going to go over it right now. So since we're already talking about TLS and SSL. So let's bring up Paint right here. And our big terms are going to be symmetric. Look, I'm probably not spelling these right. Give me a break, all right? I'm not an English major. I told Kote on the today actually that my grammar mistakes are going to be the downfall of us. Asymmetric. All right, there's two different keys. Let me just, I think there's two M's. Hold on, symmetric. Yeah, there's two M's. Let me go ahead and throw the other M in here. There we go, just barely squeak it in there. There we go. Totally didn't misspell it the first time. All right, so there's things called asymmetric and symmetric keys. So this is important to know, and pretty much anything you do with encryption will be using one or the other of these on how they secure your data. There's not really any other options. So symmetric means that it's kind of just like the word, there's symmetry, right? You know, hold on, let me pull up pictures of symmetry just in case anyone's confused on what that means. Symmetry, God. There we go. Thank God for autocorrect. Symmetry, which means that if you cut it in half, both sides, or not really cut, you can't just cut it in half wherever, but there's a line where if you cut it in half, both sides would be exactly the same. I actually like this one the most. And then there's asymmetric. These words, this is exactly the same of what we're covering. Symmetric and asymmetric, symmetric and asymmetric. As you can see here, symmetric means they are both the same. Asymmetric means both sides are different, all right? This is just the terminology used for your encryption keys. So in symmetric, let's say I want to talk to you, all right? I will give you a key and I will have a key. In symmetric encryption, both of our keys will be exactly the same. Think of it like your house. Where are my keys at? They're gone, but I think I have this weird key right here. This is not really a good example, but this is a terrible looking key. Okay, but imagine your house. Your house has a lock on it, right? You may have a key for that. Maybe if you live with your parents do. If you have a spouse or a significant other, they'll have a key for it. You all have the exact same key. That would be a way of doing things as symmetric encryption, because you all have the same key to unlock the exact same door. All right? With asymmetric, there are two different keys, and they are not both able to unlock the same doors. So utilizing math, so let me pull it back for 1 second. So in asymmetric, so hold on, symmetric, all keys same. So all the keys are the same, the exact same. Asymmetric, there's going to be two different keys. All right, two different keys. One is going to be, and the terminology that's typically used, and you'll see it all the time, is going to be the public key. And one is going to be the private key. So there's some really cool math behind this, and it utilizes prime numbers, and it actually directly corresponds with our ability to know how many prime numbers there are. We do know how to compute prime numbers, but the list of existing prime numbers we know about is constantly being calculated and enlarged. There are literally compute efforts going on 24/7 to compute the next largest prime number because it utilizes a lot of computing resources. And there are websites that you can utilize to download these prime numbers. So list of computed prime numbers. I'm just gonna click on the Wikipedia article for now, but there is a actual website that you can download basically all prime numbers that have ever been computed so far, and they're published as like certain. There's some standards that are published too, and as a refresh, this won't be on a test, by the way. All right, this is just extra knowledge. Prime numbers are going to be numbers that are greater than 1 that have no positive divisors. Basically, you can't divide it. So it's a number above 1 that you cannot divide by any other number without getting like decimal places. So things like, you know, is 2 a part of it? I guess since 1 is not really a part of it. So 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, and so forth, so on and so forth. They're all odd numbers, and that actually is important in how they kind of compute or quicker compute whether they are prime numbers or not, is they utilize that fact, because now you're basically cutting the pool of numbers you're trying to figure out in half. But moving on, you don't have to deal with the numbers, all right? Don't worry about it if that was overwhelming to you because of the math part. There are public and private keys. There's some cool math that goes on behind this. So effectively what happens is when you have some type of data, all right, and you encrypt it with your private key. So you encrypt this data, let's say it's to your mom and you're saying, "Hi mom." So now it's encrypted. Let's see if I can draw a little block. No one can read that, including yourself. Once you encrypt data, if you're using asymmetric, you are unable to unencrypt this once you encrypt it. I know, it's a little weird, a little funny, but yeah, you are not able to read the data that you encrypt yourself with that private key. But because there's some cool math logic going on, when you send this out to, let's say your buddy, so this is, or actually, our example was your mom. So you send it off to your mom, and your mom receives this encrypted data. She can unencrypt it with that public key. All right. Whoops, I should do like an unlock one. There we go. She can unencrypt your data with that public key and then read your message to your mom. No one can unencrypt your data with your private key. It's only with the public key that it is unencrypted by. And this works vice versa. So technically, either key could be your private key. It is technically up to you. Usually they'll be auto-labeled when you generate these, but it's a reversible function, which means that if you use your public key to encrypt data, let me do the, there we go. We gotta get these pretty pictures in here. If you use the public key to encrypt data and you send it, if someone, so Bobby Joe down the street from you uses your public key to encrypt your data and then sends it to you. So once it's encrypted with that key, you cannot decrypt it with the same key. It's impossible to decrypt it with the same key, period. So Bobby Joe wants to send you a message and keep it secret from the world. He encrypts it. He could publish it on Reddit, Facebook, who knows? He could sell it to the government. Maybe the FBI is listening to him, whatever. They cannot read or figure that data out, period, at all, unless they have the private key, which only you have. So when he sends that data to you, you're able to unencrypt that data and see what his super secret message is to you. It's super, super cool. It utilizes math, all right? If you are super interested in the math behind it, you can do your own research and figure it out. The only thing you need to know as a programmer and a developer is that there is symmetric and asymmetric. Asymmetric is used more often than symmetric is. Asymmetric also works in both ways. So you'll get two keys that are generated. Usually they'll be labeled as public and private. And anything encrypted by one key can never be decrypted by the same key. It has to be decrypted by the other. All right? It's how you can ensure privacy. Now, we're talking about HTTPS here. So you might be able to kind of look at this and figure out how encrypting your web traffic works. So there is, let me see if are there any questions so far? If there are, go ahead and put them. Encryption stuff can be kind of confusing to people. It was a little confusing to me at first. It probably took me like 2 weeks to kind of actually like understand what the hell was going on. So if you have questions, please ask them, and we can go over like more metaphors or examples. So in internet land, this is how your web traffic is encrypted. You will have a private key. Let me choose this one. This will sit on your web server. If it's Facebook, that will sit on Facebook's web servers. Google, it will sit on Google's web servers. This you don't want people to have. This is a big no-no. This you want to make sure is like secure, put away, and no one can get it. If you get hacked and someone gets this is a no bueno. It's okay though, because it's easy to rotate, which we'll talk about here in a second, but you don't want people to have that. This guy though, you could publish that. Put it on Reddit, put it on YouTube, put it on Google, your website, whatever. You can publicly push that out. Anyone can have it. It is a-okay if people have that key. All right? So what happens here is that there are actual places called certificate authorities. So why is this saying it's locked? And then if you guys were here yesterday, the Rootkit website said it had the lock on it, but it said not secure. All right? There's a reason for that, because there's these things called certificate authorities. You got to respect my authority. All right? If you click on your lock here and you view your certificate and go to details, in the details here, they will have information in regards to, or should have information here in regards to who the certificate authority was. Here we go. So this is the certificate authority ID. Is this the one they use? Let's Google this and see. Okay, yep. So they use Let's Encrypt, which I'll talk about here in a second because it's super awesome. All right. So Let's Encrypt is a very, very big certificate authority. Other big ones would be, these are like massive billion-dollar companies that you've never heard of, but they run the internet and quote-unquote the world. So DigiCert is one of the bigger companies also. Do they even worth about $8 billion? You've probably never heard of them. They help run and secure the entire internet. All right, there's lots of companies in this space that you might have never heard of that run the internet. So what they do is they have servers everywhere. And they are certificate authorities or trusted authorities because effectively people have came together and said, hey, whatever you have on your servers as the public key for a website, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust what you tell me that public key is. Because as far as you know, if these weren't the things out there, I could tell you that maybe you are publishing, you yourself are publishing your public key, but I want to ruin your website, so I act like I'm you and I tell everyone, actually, this is the public key that you should use. And now if people use the public key I posted, I can read all of their traffic, all of their data. So it's no bueno. So there's these people that are certificate authorities, which are the ones that you trust inherently. All right. And whatever they have as the public keys on their servers for sites are the ones you trust. So when you see this lock icon, this means that the cert is trusted. They looked at a trusted security authority and they saw the public key, and your computer used that to encrypt your data because that is the default trusted individual. When you generate yourself a encrypted website, you most likely won't have published your keys onto one of these trusted authorities services. So your data will be encrypted. All right, it will be 100% encrypted. It just will show up here in red and say not secure because the browser and your operating system can't validate it because it's not registered on a trusted authority. Also, these things expire. So what happened on the rootkit site is ours expired. And so once it expired, it was no longer like trusted because it expired. How does it expire? Basically, you say like, here's my cert, and that will be my cert for 3 months. After 3 months, I'll give you a new one, which is good to do because if for some reason you got hacked in those 3 months, you're gonna want to replace your cert with a new one, right? With new certs. So you'll replace them. Rotating them often is important. Same thing with your passwords on websites, which most people don't do. Replacing your password often on all sites is a good thing. Now, again, programmers are people. They're normal, just like you. They're no different than the McDonald's worker or the person in the farm or whatever. All right, they are no different. So if you are too lazy to change your password every couple of months, it's very common to see people be too lazy to change their certs every couple of months. So to get around having to do that work, a lot of sites will just say, hey, don't expire my cert for 100 years. If they ever get hacked, that cert is going to be very valid for a very long time. So it's not a very good thing. So asymmetric, yes, is 2 keys. Symmetric is 1 key. Let me pull up Paint here real quick. I guess I should just say here 1 key. So it's 1 key to rule them all, just like Lord of the Rings. 1 ring to rule them all. This is 1 single key. It can encrypt and decrypt stuff. Any other questions here? All right, so a lot of chat there. Effectively, big thing, asymmetric, 2 keys, symmetric, 1 key. And this asymmetric is how your internet traffic is secured, and your public certs are published on certificate authorities, which are trusted servers that you can go get certificates from. Now, your operating system has a list of these, and you can change them if you would like. It's basically just means you varied when you list your public key with digits. Can you re-ask that question? So these are trusted servers. DigiCert and Let's Encrypt are trusted servers that your operating system or browser will go to get your public key. Windows certificate manager, or is it going to be authority? Let's see, Windows add certificate authority. So let's see here real quick. If we go, okay, click on file menu. This doesn't seem right. Can you, holy crap, that load time was crazy. I want some pictures. Using, click on the search box on the taskbar in the start menu and type in MMC. That is not what we're going to launch. Let me go to the next link. Oh, they want mmc.exe. Here we go. Let's see what this brings up. This does not seem right. There's definitely, I think that we can do it in the browser. Hold on, let me do this on the side here, because I know there's settings also in the browser. Certificate. Here we go. Certificates managed by Chrome. Device. Here we go. So if you go to your, whoops, let me bring this over here. This might help clear some things up. If you go over to your settings on Chrome, for example, and go to privacy and security, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see things here like manage device certificates and certificates managed by Chrome. If we click on this first one here, you'll actually get some setting boxes. So this is where you can basically import and tell Chrome what servers to trust when retrieving these public keys, because you don't want to just trust anyone. So if you go on here and you click on like intermediate or trusted root certificates, you'll see here like all these different certificates and who issued them, and these are usually just default ones. So here's trusted publishers. So this is usually built into your operating system and your browser. There will be default people that they trust and allow, and they'll also update this list. So your computer will go and verify that the certificates were made and verified by these servers, and then you will inherently trust it. Now, if you want to add your own, you can add your own in here, and you can add it in these tabs. Are all they're here for is for categorizing. There's nothing super special about these different tabs. It's just ones that you so you can import it technically in any of these, but it's just for helping categorize everything. All right, so let me see here. Let us, I think we've talked about that just enough. Are there any other questions? So going back to what's going to be on the exam for a second. SSL, TLS. Older, newer. They're both used for encrypting traffic, and they both use asymmetric encryption. Alright? Alright. So, FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Go in and ask any questions if you guys have any questions before we move forward. So, FTP, File Transfer Protocol. When you want to upload things to a web server, so if you bought like hosting on HostGator or actually, yeah, let's finish covering this one and then we're going to take a break because we're about at the top of the hour here. So if you get hosting on some type of service or whatever, if you want to upload files or download files easily, they have these things called FTP clients, which stand for File Transfer Protocol. And these are going to work on ports 20 and 21. Yep, 20 and 21. These are going to work on. By default, FTP is not encrypted, so everything will be clear text. So that's clear text, plain text, same word. You'll also see this, I mean, you've already seen it several times, but as we move forward, you'll see it more and more. Devs can never get on the same program. All right, again, antisocial people, dark closets, never see the light, hate other people. That's typical dev for you. They're making these things. They don't talk to each other. They want to call everything whatever they want to call it because they're cool and special. So clear text, plain text means the exact same thing. It means that if you opened it up in Notepad, you could read what is there. So FTP by default is going to be not encrypted. They have new updated versions of it called SFTP, which is the encrypted version, and it's using this thing called SSH, which we're going to get to here in a second. But FTP is going to use 21 and 20. Usually modern setups of FTP will only use port 21. All right, port 21, and that will be using TCP. All right, you can use port 80, which is a different type of transfer protocol, I guess, in the same protocol, and that's going to be utilizing UDP to start everything up, and then you'll finish it with TCP when you actually transfer all the data. So port 2021, remember that it uses TCP primarily, but also there's some variations where you can set up and use UDP. This is going to be port 443 TCP. All right, this is going to be port 80 TCP. This is going to be port 114, and it's going to be using TCP. Sorry, 140. Wait a second. Yeah, 143 and 993. 143 for unencrypted, 993 for encrypted, using TCP. Next, POP3 is going to be using TCP, and this is going to be on port 110. Next, SMTP. This is going to be also on TCP. All right, so it's going to be TCP traffic. It's going to be using port 25, 465, and 587. All right. That's the main key points, things that you could be hit on for the test about. You got to know those things. As you can see, the recurring theme here is pretty much everything you do on the internet as you know it today is going to be using TCP. That gentleman handshake to ensure that traffic, comes back and forth and its integrity is in check. All right, let's go on break. If you guys have questions, please ask them into the chat. Kamala, I see that question right there that you just asked. If I didn't answer it already, please just copy and paste and re-ask it again, because I'm taking a mental note of where everything is right now. So ask your questions, ask them. When we come back, we'll do some reviewing, answer all the questions, and then we'll continue on forward. All right, sweet. I'll see you guys in like 3-5 minutes. What is up? What is up? We are back. All right, after a break. So, before we continue forward, well, I can't really say this sweater well, I can still say, I mean, the sweater is super cool. The giveaway, you did miss it. It just finished. We're going to be pulling the winner tomorrow. We will have week 4 live here after the stream. Excuse me, we'll post it in the Discord. You can also just check on the site. Make sure you enter in order to potentially win what our next giveaway is. What it's going to be, I don't know. I haven't figured out yet. I'll figure it out though after the stream. Anything you guys want in particular? If you are appreciating this, also by the way, this giveaway is free. All right, doesn't cost anything. You don't need to do anything crazy. It's just subbing to our Twitch, joining our Discord, very, very basic stuff, or subscribing to the YouTube channel, very, very basic stuff like that. If you like what we are doing and you want to help financially support us, which we need all the financial support we can get, we are a registered nonprofit here in the US, so everything you do is tax deductible. So anything you donate here on this site is tax deductible. Excuse me. Depending on what you donate, you will get rewards, including, just go ahead and grab these stickers over here. There we go. So this is the default one. So these are our cool, hold on, can't see the camera. Hold it up, where is that? There we go. Our cool normal stickers. They're also emotes. These are like, I don't know, I like them all. These are all super awesome. This one's kind of cool too. They're all stickers on our Discord also. And then we also have the 100 Days of Rootkit exclusive stickers, which will only be available during this event. All right, super, super cool. There is the collab t-shirt that you can get, which I really like. Everyone that has received one has fallen in love with it. All right, super, super cool. And we have the sweater. All right, so you can help there. And we have little goal markers. They're really hard to see. I don't know why. Also, like this text with black on black. Look, I would change this stuff if I could, but this is not really configurable by us. But we have goalpost markers here. So at 6,000, we will teach for 24 hours straight. 10K, I will shave my head live on stream. And 20, which we will not get to because I don't want you guys to, is shaving this beard. But you guys don't want to see me without this beard, all right? All donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations by an anonymous donor. So if right now we're at 387, so 387 will be matched by the anonymous donor at the end of every single month while we're streaming. They will match the amount that's currently in there up to the first 10,000. So it's not going to include what they donated. It's going to just include what other people have donated. So if 10,000 is donated by you guys, then they'll match 10,000 and we will have to shave my beard, which we're not going to get to, all right? We don't want to get there. So we shall continue onward. I see asymmetric is public and private keys. Correct. Asymmetric is 2 keys and they're usually referred to as public and private. Symmetric is 1 key, which means it's just private. You don't want anyone to ever have this key unless you want them to be able to unencrypt the traffic that is being encrypted. Very important there. Let's see here. I'll donate 20K once I pass the test and secure employment. That's the whole model right now that we have for us. So the only way we get asked this question a lot, how does Rootkit make money? The answer is we don't. We are burning through money like crazy. We don't really make money. The only time we make money would be, it's not really making money, but when you take your exam, it costs, but it doesn't really make us money because it just covers our base costs. All right. And then when we get you hired at a job, we take a recruiting fee from the company that we hire you from. So that, depending on the company, will be an actual decent amount of cash, which may be a positive gain for us. the big hope is similar to college. When we hook you guys up, you'll come back and donate and be generous donators. And it's been pretty successful for us so far with the individuals that have been certified and gotten jobs. They have been very generous with their donations afterwards, hence the 10K anonymous donor. Very, very generous. Very, very generous. So don't worry, if you're in the US, we'll definitely be able to secure you a developer job. If you're outside the US, it's not, I can't guarantee it, but it is very, 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 very likely that we will be able to get you a job. All right. What did the computers one say? Can you, what is that reference to, Kauai? Is it the picture? I can pull this up. The sticker. Oh, the sticker. Let me grab that. It says, when there's code, there's bugs. Pretty cute, pretty cute. All of them are like little sticker emojis on the Discord, so you can go take a look there. Also on our site, on the actual store section, or the merch section here, you can actually get a better picture of all the individual stickers and what they say. Alrighty, let's see, how do we enter the giveaway? You just go over to our site, click on blog, and they'll be listed here. Again, week 4 I will be putting up after the stream. All you do is click on it. It will ask for a name and email address. You'll fill that in, and there's going to be little like tasks, like subscribe to YouTube, and a button right there that you can click to confirm that you're subscribed to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, and then a button for like confirming that. Follow us on Twitter, and then a button for that. It's just very simple, like basic things that I would imagine most of you guys are already doing. So just go ahead and get your free entry so you can get some free merch. All right, let us move on here, shall we? So FTP has 2 different modes, active and passive mode. This dictates whether you're going to be using port 20 or not, in that UDP traffic or not. So let's go here and say file transfer protocol. And on Wikipedia, we can see, find passive, here we go. So passive mode is just a way of how the server will go about listening. So this is going to be utilizing port 20 and 21. So effectively, the server will just sit there passively listening for, is this on port 21? Never mind, port 21. It will sit there passively listening for someone to try to connect, and then once you try to reach out and connect with it, you'll establish a connection on port 21. And then there's active mode. Let me see, active. Oh yeah, active mode is on port 20, so the client starts listening for incoming data connections from the server. It sends the FTP command port M, don't worry too much about FT commands right now, to inform the server which port is listening. The server then initiates a data channel to the client from port 20. So it's basically Uno reverse card, where instead of a server listening for you to communicate to it, the client will sit there and just wait for the server to communicate to you, and it will send the data over port 20. All right. SSH. We have SSH here. We had Telnet on here also previously, but we did remove it because to get away from people even wanting to use it, we felt it might be best to completely remove it from the course and not even do testing on it, because we don't want to encourage it ever being used. Telnet is a service that is installed on most operating systems by default. It is not turned on though. Telnet. And Telnet is going to work across port, 23. All right. Super bad. Don't use it. If you ever see port 23 open on a box, turn it off. Find it, turn it off. Windows has Telnet built into it. Do not use it. Do not ever turn it on. If you ever think a computer has been compromised, hacked, and you don't know how a bad actor might be communicating to your server, your computer, look to see if port 23 is open. See if Telnet is running. Telnet is no bueno, all right? Telnet is also unencrypted traffic. It's effectively a way for you to talk to a computer, but in an unencrypted fashion. It's no bueno. SSH is basically the better version. It is encrypted, right? It is encrypted. It is an encrypted way for you to talk to a server and communicate with it. This is how you can effectively get a command prompt on a different computer. So when you type in like PowerShell, this is a PowerShell session for my computer here. I am on my computer, talking to my computer, etc., etc. But you don't have to. You could use something like SSH to connect to a computer remotely, a server anywhere in the world, and communicate with it. So SSH stands for Secure Shell, and it's just a encrypted network protocol, or a cryptographic means it's going to be encrypted networking protocol that allows you to connect securely over an unsecured network, which means just the internet, right? And this is going to be working on port 22. And this is what encrypts SFTP, right? They're just piggybacking off of this, because with SSH, you can do anything. You're pretty much just directly talking to a server, however you potentially want to talk to it. Like, let me see if I can give an example here. Where is my, hold on one second. Let me pull up this. Am I still logged in? Please tell me I'm still, no, okay, hold on. New session. And I think I have a box open. EC2. There we go. All right. So let's kind of see this in action here. So I have this guy right here, which is it doesn't look like much, but this is a server that I am running right now in AWS. The only way to connect to this server is by using SSH. Now, you can use SSH on your local computer. Windows doesn't really have anything built in, so to tell if SSH is built in, if you type in SSH, something will come up here. So SSH is built in on this. So you can use SSH right now with PowerShell like this. A lot of times people will use other programs. Something common is called PuTTY. PuTTY isn't just SSH, it is also a Telnet client, but they also have tech built in for generating your asymmetric and symmetric certs. So you could use them to generate those certs. And I'm going to go ahead and install it because I did forget to install this when I was setting up my computer here. So I do need this anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and install it as we move forward here. So to connect to this, you can use SSH. I'm going to go ahead and connect to it, and there is setup here for an SSH client. I'm not going to follow this one because we have our session manager set up. So I'm just going to connect here, but this is using SSH. And bam, I'm in. I've hacked the mainframe. Not really. But now I'm in to this computer. This computer is not in my house. It is out in AWS's little server farms, and is a server I have in AWS running right now, but it is utilizing SSH in order to connect to it. Sure, there's no pretty graphics, but you're not going to deal with pretty graphics in developer world because, like I said, I don't know how many days ago, making pretty graphics takes time, takes money. Do you know how to do graphics? If you do, cool. It's going to take you time to make all these graphics. Developers don't have time for that. We move forward. So most things you're going to be doing in developer world will have no pictures. Your life is going to look like this. This is how computers were originally set up when they became popular. All right? They were set up as just terminals. They are still like that. Every computer is a terminal at its core. All the pictures you see on it are just pictures on top of what actually is going on below, which is all terminal stuff. All right? Big takeaway there. Everything is terminal. If I want to see files, I can type, for example, in this it would be ls in PowerShell. You can do ls also, but you can also do dir, and that's how you list files. This should be kind of familiar because if I open up Windows Explorer here, this is also listing files, and I'm in right now. Let's see here. This is where I am. As you can see, these are pretty similar. We're going to get into this more in the operating system section, but as you can see, these are the exact same outputs. They are the exact same thing. You are doing these console commands pretty much when you're using these pretty GUIs, these pretty picture systems here. All right? Anything you can do here in pretty picture world, what you think of as your normal operating system, you can do here in the terminal, except 20,000 million times more things and faster and more effective. It is everything you know except way better. All right? So this is what you get from SSH. Any questions on that? Bring up here. Big takeaway for SSH, it's on port 22 and is encrypted. It's a way for you to securely connect to other computers and servers. Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Let us talk about this. This is again going to be helping you encrypt your traffic, whether this is going to be web traffic or files. Like it could be it could be used anywhere. It's just most commonly found, in web traffic, because people want to have their web traffic extra secure. Your web traffic by default, when you're using HTTPS, is extra secure. So there's not really too much you have to do extra in order to figure or to make it more secure. So Diffie-Hellman, let's see here, key exchange is going to be a way of exchanging keys. All right, it's a secure way to exchange your cryptographic keys, aka, hold on, let's go and install that. Where's my pretty picture from earlier? Go away, README. These keys right here, and even symmetric keys. It's a way to securely transfer these keys across the internet. Because if you make, let's say, a cool key, a symmetric key, and you want to share it with your buddy, how do you securely share these things? How do you securely move them around? If the internet is inherently already unsecure, you can't just email it or send it because things aren't secure. What are you going to do? Like, put in an envelope and drive it? Like, that's going to be too much work. Put in a USB drive and then drive it. It's just too much stuff. All right, too much stuff. So how do we automate this and make it quicker, faster? We use the Diffie-Hellman exchange to securely exchange keys. And it was one of the first public key protocols conceived by Ralph Merkle and named after Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman. Diffie-Hellman is one of the earliest practical examples of public key exchange implemented within the field of cryptography, published in 1978. So also something you'll see reoccurring with a lot of these mathy stuff that we talk about. Just because they were published 50 plus years ago doesn't mean they're not good. A lot of these techniques and things that we implement and follow today were made by super smart math wizards a long time ago, because they were thought through perfectly and they were conceived perfectly then. They weren't really practical to do, but they were invented and thought of perfectly back then. Same thing with, for example, like Alan Turing and his computer. It was the grandfather of computers, and the math and thoughts behind it were pretty solid, but it was impractical because it took a huge warehouse of space just to do something very small. But as time has progressed and technology has advanced, it becomes more and more practical to do a lot of these things. All right. Same thing, like you can think of it like Newton, like his theory for like gravity and stuff. It just because it was invented hundreds of years ago doesn't mean that it's not still relevant. It is still very relevant. All right, so let's see. It's used traditionally secured encrypted communications between two parties require that they first exchange keys by some secure physical means, such as paper, key, list, transport, courier, key exchange. Okay, we're going to, let me pull up the book here real quick. We're going to go through the book explanation because it's going to simplify this. Come on, load. Addressing CMP application layer. And let's see here. Is it in this one? Please tell me I have it. All right, I don't know where it is right now, so we're gonna go back and look at a picture because the pictures will make it a little bit easier to just talk about and go through. Let's see here. Why is this so blurry? Open a new tab. That is too small. Can we zoom in on this? Chooses, here we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna explain it. We're gonna roll with this graphic, but I'm just gonna explain it from scratch. So we talked about asymmetric and symmetric keys, right? Let me just last second to look here to see if there's anything else. Nope. All right, let me pull up the streams. All right, so I'm just gonna run through it from scratch. So we talked about asymmetric and symmetric keys. So that is what you're going to be utilizing when you use the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. This is what is performed every time you are trying to connect out to a website. This is the actual process that is done. For the test, all you need to know is the Diffie-Hellman key exchange is a way for you to securely exchange keys with someone else. How this is performed is, I guess you could say your traffic is potentially getting doubly encrypted. Not really, that's kind of a stretch, but effectively what's going to happen is you and someone else, where's my paint? You and someone else are both going to generate your own asymmetric keys, all right? You're both going to generate them, or maybe you already have them pre-generated, and what you're going to do is you're going to share your public keys with each other. So once you first connect with each other in a unencrypted fashion, because that's how all traffic starts, is unencrypted, you'll connect to someone in unencrypted fashion. You'll be like, hey, once you establish that connection, you're going to say, hey, here's my public key. And then the other person's going to be like, all right, here's my public key. Once you have each other's public keys, you can then encrypt data using those public keys and then send it back to the individual. once you've sent it back to the individual, they can then unencrypt it with their private key. Because again, this is using asymmetric encryption, where there's two keys and the same key cannot decrypt stuff. You have to use the other key, all right? So once that connection has been established and those private keys have been made, then on top of that, they will then share a symmetric key, all right? They will share a single symmetric key. So again, that is one single key that can encrypt and decrypt things. So once they've made a secure initial connection, which is the first part of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, they will then share a symmetric secure or symmetric key, which then they will use moving forward to encrypt their traffic. Any questions in regards to that? Let me see here. The other, like, this is a big simplification to the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. The only, like, additional thing, if we want to be more correct, is that you're going to doubly encrypt things. So when you get data, you're going to, let me bring up Paint. The more, like, correct way would be, so you have your pub and your priv key, and you perform an exchange. So let me see here. Hold on. So Alice and Bob you'll see are used a lot in programming examples and cybersecurity examples because those are just the default terminology everyone has used. So Alice will have a private and a public key. Bob will have a private and a public key. And then they will both share their public keys with each other. So Bob's going to share his public, and Alice is going to share her public. After doing that, then they're going to encrypt some data. First, Bob is going to encrypt that data with his public, and then he's going to encrypt it with his private, and then he's going to doubly encrypt it with the public key that he sent to Alice. So it's doubly encrypted. So then when the data is sent over, the only thing that's important here is the order of how things were encrypted. But since these keys are basically have like a matter and an antimatter version of itself, so they can cancel each other out. Both these keys can cancel out the encryption that was done here. And so as long as you know the order that they were encrypted in when the box is sent over here, since they have the anti-version of those keys, they can then unencrypt that data. All right. And then to simplify everything, a symmetric key is typically shared between the two individuals in this doubly encrypted state. And then moving forward with communications, you just use the symmetric key because, again, it takes a lot of work and effort for your computer to do all this encryption. So to simplify it, you will just use the symmetric key moving forward. Only during the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, when you want to securely exchange a key like a symmetric key, is when you do the doubly encrypting stuff, right? Any questions on that? So again, for the exam, Diffie-Hellman key exchange, all you need to know to pass the exam is that it is a secure way to exchange keys with another device. That is it. Everything else is extra and more in depth. Any questions on that at all? If not, we'll go ahead and cover LDAP. If you have questions, go ahead and just drop them in there. All right, LDAP. LDAP is another application that you can use. It's going to be utilizing port 389 and 636. All right, that's going to be the secure version, because again, you'll usually see everything has two different versions. One is the unencrypted version and one is the encrypted version. So this is the unencrypted 389 and this is the encrypted version. So what LDAP is lightweight directory access protocol, and this will allow you, it's a open, vendor neutral, industry standard application for accessing and maintaining distributed directory information services over IP networks, aka the internet. So what this is useful for is if you have a server that's dedicated for holding files and you want to access it. So typically it's like a drive. So if you ever heard of a network drive or used a network drive, so these are old drives I have connected to my computer, but you can add right here a network drive, right? You can use FTP if you want, but you also could use LDAP in order to set up a network drive. And it just lets you connect and communicate with that securely over the internet. So over IP network is the internet, because IP is the internet protocol. This is what dictates how you go about using the internet. So when you see these bigger terms, like, you gotta break it down and take a second to kind of realize what it's actually saying, because I mean, it can be a little overwhelming to read stuff like this. Any questions on that? How's everyone feeling? We feeling good? You guys good? You guys want to call it a day there, or do you guys want to go through the specialty networks? Up to you guys on what you want to do. That was pretty much at the or what was planned to cover today, but if you guys want to go through specialty networks, we can go ahead and go through them real quick. Twitch is acting funny for me. Well, hopefully it's not acting funny for you anymore. See, the agreement right now is to call it a day. I think that's not a bad plan. So, any last minute questions before we do call it a day? If you do think of more questions, don't worry. Tomorrow is just all about questions. We are not teaching anything new tomorrow. Tomorrow is just a chill day where I'm going to be here and available for you guys to ask questions, for us to review, go over anything that maybe you don't really understand, or didn't quite understand, or maybe you looked into it a little bit and you had like further questions. It could be something unrelated. It could be something about the job field in general. It could be literally anything you want. I'm just going to be here available, chilling, for us just to chat. Alright, so if there are no other questions, I think we'll call that a day. Tomorrow I shall see you guys. Remember, chill day, nothing new. It's there for you guys to utilize as pretty much like a tutoring service. I mean, this all kind of is like a tutoring service, but just here to chill with you guys. It will be as long or as short as you guys want it to be based off how many questions are rolling in. So make sure you load up on questions. All right. I will see you guys on the next one.